Awesome. Thank you so much, Wendy. So welcome, everyone. My name is Marco Vargas, and I'm the co-founder of Exponential Destiny. Together, we have some awesome speakers for you to discuss and explore visual and haptic accessibility in the VR and AR space. Wendy here is with the Helen Keller National Center. We have Lucas with Mind Your Language, who's been doing accessibility for several years now, and he'll share a little bit more about his experience. And then we also have Roberto, who is a part of the deaf and blind community and would like to increase awareness about some of the needs that are required for to build an accessible metaverse. And so I have a couple questions for this exciting panel, but why don't we start off with a round of introductions?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So again, I'm Wendy, or Laila. Usually my family goes back and forth, they can't decide. So on a good day, I'm Laila, on a bad day, I'm Wendy. But I do work for the Helen Keller National Center, which we're located in the state of New York, but we do cover the entire US and US territories. And so basically we have a lot of, we do accessibility for people who are deaf and blind, the combination of vision loss and hearing loss. And we do also have a TRIC Center, which is a research and technology center as well, where companies can come and also have their systems tested by individuals who are deaf blind. So you get that lived experience, feedback that is so valuable. As well as we do have different projects that we're working on to support any avenue of accessibility that you might need. So we'll have more information on that later on.
Thank you, Wendy. My name is Lucas. I'm colorblind. I'm saying this because 1/4 of the population in the world has some sort of disability, right? And it's not something that really matters, right, most of the times for me, but it's something that I struggle with, right? So that's just an introduction, so you can know a little bit of something personal from me. Why I'm doing this is because I've been working with the deaf community and the deaf-blind community for over 25 years, and I've been a friend of the communities, and I've seen how they've faced so many difficulties having access to so many wonderful things that are out there, especially now with the metaverse. And a couple of years, I'm the founder of Mind Your Language. I founded 5 years ago, thanks to the support of some deaf colleagues who really believed in me, right? And we've been trying to push out there the importance of accessibility for the deaf, deaf-blind, and for other types of disabilities. And I'm excited to share more points about this with all of you. Thank you for being here.
Roberto?
Hello, my name is Roberto Cabrera. I'm from California. I am Dominican, and I've worked in various roles, mostly in vocational rehab, community advocacy and education, as well as a mentor for deaf-blind interpreters. I'm really thrilled to be here because our future of how we connect and communicate with individuals is in virtual reality, and I want to be creative and make sure that it happens for us as well. So I am really happy to be able to collaborate with Lucas and Wendy. We've been working together for many years, and we see the potential, and I am grateful for the opportunity to have this dialogue with you all today.
Awesome. Can I get a round of applause for our panel?
Actually, let's do the deaf round of applause, which is this.
Thank you, Wendy. To start off, let's jump into it. Lucas, why should we care about accessibility?
All right. First of all, because it's the right thing to do. We are all here because we see a future that is different and new and innovative, right? And we say that the metaverse should be accessible for all. And it should be, so we should care, right? All these amazing things that we're looking forward to be able to do, like taking care of our healthcare, our education, fun, right, gaming, all of these things need to also be accessible to all these individuals with disabilities. So we should care because of that. That's the main reason, just because it's the right thing to do, right? However, there are also other reasons for that. I mean, there's a legal case, of course, legally for some entities, they're supposed to provide accessibility. However, I don't want to focus on that. First of all, it's the right thing to do. And then secondly, besides that one that I don't want to talk about right now, is that there's a business case for it. And just very briefly, I want to give a few examples. When COVID started, everybody went online, right? And we were all working from home. Also deaf people and the deafblind people, all of them, right? So now what platform were they to use? Well, they needed the platform that was more accessible. And if you ask any deaf person, then 95% of them are gonna say they like Zoom over Teams, over WebEx, over Google Meet because of accessibility, right? So imagine this huge population now having to have all these meetings, and then they selected a platform that provided that. Now this platform had all that additional revenue, right, that the others don't have, and that huge crowd of people who will use it. So that's just one example. The same thing applies to Xbox over PS or PlayStation and some others. So it's not only because it's good to do, but if we look at it from the business standpoint, it's also beneficial for us.
Thank you for sharing. I know with 25 years of experience supporting the deaf and blind community, I think you bring a lot of valuable input to the table, and I hope everyone here can absorb how important accessibility in the metaverse is, because to be honest, we need to do a good job at educating ourselves of what that means, because it can look and take many shapes and forms.
And just to add to, we're here to be inspired, like this is the theme. And the goal is to inspire individuals or those who are creators, those who are designers, to go ahead and create, to be inspired to create with accessibility in mind. Of course, there's no perfect thing as, creating something that's completely accessible, but to create with a spirit of accessibility is what we're trying to sort of, to give out that message, right?
Thank you, Wendy. I'd like to ask Roberto, what are the benefits of haptics for individuals with vision or hearing loss, or the combination of both? And Wendy, feel free to add a couple notes.
Sure. So the benefits to me, well, generally speaking, I should say, people with disabilities, but in general, all folks with our phones, for example, iPhones, they have haptic features already. If someone in my family who's hearing, who's sighted, normal person, so to speak, loves their Apple Watch because it gives haptic feedback while they're driving with their GPS. Some cars are now equipped with technology, haptic technologies, so that the seat starts to vibrate when you get too close to the vehicle in front of you. So that feature is so beneficial, not just to deafblind people, but to everybody. So people who use phones, people who drive cars. If the technology is in there, why people with disabilities, we use language that includes touch, because that touch gives us a sense of relationship. It gives us environmental feedback. It gives us environmental information. So that's technology with touch we already have. We have pro-tactile techniques. And I think because we have those technology already in watches, in cars, in phones, why not in VR? Just like Lucas was saying, in Zoom, Zoom has already integrated some of those haptic features. At the University of St. Louis, they're doing research on how they can use Zoom, which connected to a robot, which is connected to another end user, and all of those are connected via haptic feedback. So we can have technology that works for all of us. There's a lot of potential already there, and so why not apply it to the VR, AR world? And that's really the question is, how can we make it happen? We gotta get together, we need to brainstorm, have critical dialogues, and just make it happen, because I see the potential.
I wanted to add, thank you, Robert. I wanted to add that the goal is when you're in a VR, AR, XR, MR, it's a sensory experience, right? So with people who are deaf-blind, how do you compensate? How do you make that somewhat of an equal experience? For example, I watched a movie, I cried. I know it's not real, but I cried because to me, at that moment, all my senses were involved, right? So for deafblind people, what is an alternative? And it's haptics, to get that feedback that otherwise they wouldn't get. So we are big on haptics because that's what can, instead of seeing with their eyes, you give them the ability to feel and see with their eyes mind, right? With the eye they have here. So it gives that additional feedback that otherwise they wouldn't get. Increase it as perhaps increase the haptic as, for example, if a person's getting closer, you would increase that vibration, right? If the person's going further. Just to give you an example, the importance of getting that tactual feedback that otherwise they wouldn't have. So that's important. And to consider too that there's like over 200 million people who have some sort of vision loss. That's worldwide. That's a big number of a population that needs haptics. And they might not even know they really need it until they incorporate it and experience it, and then they realize that component was missing, and it adds to that, to that experience at that moment.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the challenges that, to segue into our next question, like what are some of the challenges in regards to accessibility in VR and AR, is that many times when you're thinking about accessibility, it's sort of a reaction. It's not like, oh, let's think about, as we're planning our event, as we are hosting an experience or creating a new program, accessibility is not at the forefront. So that's one challenge that I will say I really appreciate that I've learned from our experience partnering together. And I'd love to, if we can expand a little bit on what are some of the challenges to make everyone aware of.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. I brought some images. They're not the best rendered images, but just, to show you different types of like vision loss, for example, diabetic retinopathy, if you can go to the next one. So the one to my right, or I believe it's to your left, would be the vision fields, retinitis pigmentosa. So let's say an individual with retinitis pigmentosa wants to get, the VR experience, or maybe go to the next one too, glaucoma, right? And I think those are the only 3 pictures I have, but it just comes to show you, just if you put yourself in their place, to kind of to know what they experience, what they see, would help when you are creating a product, right? Not that, again, nothing can be perfect, but perhaps just keeping that in mind. And this is just 3 of the most common causes of deafblindness, but of course there's several others. There's the tunnel vision, Usher syndrome, but this is just a little insight as to one of the challenges that is there, on top of the colors, of course. Some colors are just not visible to individuals who are deafblind, right, or who have low vision. So creating with the idea of color filters as well is something else to consider.
And if may add something, I think it's challenging, right? There are many challenges. And looking at these pictures, the only people who can tell us how challenging is the people who actually have these conditions, right? So it is very important for companies out there, product designers, service providers, to collaborate with people with these disabilities, because these are not people who are like in the hoods, who live in a village. No, they are part of our society, right? They're well-educated people, they're professionals, and they love to be part of all these type of technology. So let's find them. Let's try and see how they can help us understand what they need, right? So that's something I wanted to point out. Also, I wanted to say that I was, before coming here, I conducted a series of interviews with deaf people. And it was very interesting because one of them, he is a hardcore gamer. He's collected all these games since the 70s, and he's owned all of them except one of them since Atari. And one thing he was saying, he's deaf. One thing he was saying is that sometimes he doesn't play certain types of games just because he doesn't know what the storyline is, because he doesn't understand. Now he does. It was more in the past when he was younger, right? Now that he's older, and he does. But sometimes he doesn't have access to whatever is happening auditorily around him, right? If there's a bomb explosion, if something is happening, sometimes he doesn't know that that's occurring, right? Also, he mentioned that it's very important for them to have accessibility in their own language, which is sign language, right? And although many within the deaf community, they can read, right? That's not their first language. So that's not how they process language the most comfortably. And it would be great to have accessibility in their own language. One of these games that actually have done that is Forza Horizon 5, and it's really cool because you actually can select to see whatever is happening in British Sign Language or in American Sign Language, right? So even when the challenges are there, we are seeing that solutions are taking place. And we just want to make people aware that there are solutions for this. And just to put it in the back of your mind, to whenever you design, start thinking with accessibility in mind. Yeah.
100%. Thank you for sharing. I'd love to, many members who are with us today and a part of the VRARA Association are coming from a corporate or company background, right? Whether for-profit or non-profit, accessibility in the members is important, especially as we are all together pioneering this new industry. And I'd love to, Wendy or Roberto, if you can share what are some of the resources for companies who want to learn more?
And I want to just, before I answer that, I wanted to say that thank you for your patience. Sometimes when you're translated into sign language, there's a lag, there's a time lapse with the translation because our mouth moves faster than our hands. So if you notice that with our interpreters, there's a little bit of a delay. It's just because they're trying to catch up with the signs. But I'll start off with saying that, of course, I represent Helen Keller National Center, so I'm always going to say that, we are a resource because we do have the resources, we do have the individuals who are deafblind, who can be a part of the process. And if we don't, we're so connected with resources that we can connect you as well. As a matter of fact, we just started working on a platform called the Feeling Through platform. Feeling Through Studio, and that'll be a great resource, and there's the QR code that we'll put at the end. But it's collaboration with Doug Rowland, who is a producer, and actually he was nominated last year for an Oscar and working on a movie where he had a first deaf-blind actor, and he was able to create a very accessible space. So he's trying to bring that experience along with HKNC to work on this platform. So companies can use it to get more information if they need to on different, communities of PWDs, if they need more information on deafblindness, et cetera. So that's a resource. And later on, you guys can always check out our website, or you can check the QR code at the end of the discussion today, for sure. And Roberto.
Yes, I'd like to add to what Wendy just said. HKNC has a technology center. It's already on site. People can go there and learn about different technologies, test out technologies they think might work for them. They have staff there who are already competent in those technology, and deafblind individuals contractors, I'm a consultant who works with them. They invite me to be involved and discuss about different diversification within their technologies. So that is a goal of theirs, to see how they can involve different communities and different ideas, their experiences, their feelings, their ideas, and just it really becomes a melting pot of ideas. As well as Mind Your Language, they are there to support you as well. Our products, our community, all of that is is available to businesses to be able to partner with and make your products accessible. The community in general, the consumers, 65% of people, again, 65% of people say they want to experience more of a human connection, a social connection, to feel communication amongst one another, okay? Maybe it's not just seeing or hearing. Maybe it's not just virtual reality, but 65% of people said they want to feel a social connection, okay? And that can happen through the world of VR and AR. There is an opportunity there, but we think that we can add to that opportunity.
Thank you, Roberto. I'd like to transition to the next question. What is the future of visual and haptic accessibility in VR and AR space? Why don't we start with Lucas?
Sure. One thing that I imagine is more and more we're thinking about live performances, right? Where everybody can get together in the VR world and where, you know, everybody's invited. But so far, is everybody invited, right? I don't think that's the case. So the future, I see a future in which people with any disabilities, motor, cognitive, deaf-blind, can be part of that, right? And for example, because as of right now, deaf people cannot communicate within the VR environment using their hands yet, or not the way they should. They cannot be part of that yet. So I see that in the future. I see when everybody's included, where everybody can play and have fun.
And I think it's I think people want to. I don't feel like anyone's out there saying like, I don't want to create an accessible space. I don't want my universe to be accessible. I don't think that happens. I think we all have this innate desire to be inclusive, but sometimes we just don't know the how to, or we just forget, or we kind of overlook it. And that's why, like, I'm very hopeful that it'll get better. There's great studies being done in Sweden with haptics, you know. So I'm very positive. I'm very inspired. I think that it's going to get better. But the important thing is to like reach out to the resources, reach out to nonprofits like HKNC, reach out to people who can give you that feedback that perhaps you overlooked, like one important component that we could kind of help and support that with, right? But I'm really hopeful. And I think that the community of deaf-blind people and deaf people will definitely benefit from it in the long run. Yeah.
Roberto, would you like to add with what is the future of visual and haptic accessibility in VR inner space? And I'd love to hear, what would be your dream of what that looks like?
Certainly. My dream for VR. So remember I talked about phones have haptic features. Cars already have haptic features. Technology is there. It benefits people with disabilities and people that don't have disabilities. So I'm thinking if it's already in those two, why can't we have it in virtual reality as well? So what technology we have, let's incorporate that into the virtual reality. And so my dream is that when I want to participate in virtual reality, I can just do it. I don't have to worry about is it accessible or not. So just like Lucas mentioned previous to myself, I want to be able to participate wholeheartedly.
And just quickly, I wanted to just off-point again that he's using a form of pro-tactile, which gives him that feedback. So if somebody in the audience perhaps is asleep or somebody's on their phone, the interpreters who's providing that pro-tactile is giving him that environmental information that he doesn't have access to. And it's just a little off point if you see that there's like two people interpreting for him. The other individual is just providing that additional feedback. So if somebody's sleeping in the audience, Roberto will know, right? But it's just, once again, I'm really hopeful, and I think that just creating awareness goes a long way in supporting the cause. Yeah.
And I would like to add, if we have the time, in one of our interviews, we talked to this guy. His name is Gilbert Brendan, and he's an engineer. He's a deaf engineer. He's been working within the VR world for the past 15 years. And one of my questions was like, what do you want to tell people? He knew I would be here. I was like, what do you want to tell people? And we have a little clip that I would like to share with everyone, if that is okay. I thought it would be nice to hear from somebody who knows the field and, right, it's also deaf. Let's see. Let's see if we can play the video.
This is my message. The first time I heard about the metaverse, I was thrilled and immediately wanted to ensure accessibility. I thought, who do I need to convince to make sure full accessibility happens? Because so very often the tale of these companies is, I will say, to forget about us, the disability community. New technologies, excited to accelerate through production, plow through everything else. Only later to realize what was left behind, accessibility. Especially newly formed companies or those with no system in place for accessibility. The metaverse must be made accessible for everyone, period. Please do your part in assuring everyone is included. Let's make the world accessible so no one is left behind.
I thought that would be like a great message to finish with.
Very powerful message. Thank you so much for sharing that.
No problem.
Again, can I get a round of applause for our panel?
This is my message.
Well,
And here we just have the QR for the Filling Through platform that the Helen Keller National Center has been working with.
Yeah, if you're interested, again, it's a resource for you all, and it actually is very inspirational to check out that little video there. And if you have more information, feel free to send to me an email, and I can connect you with more resources. Yeah.
And if you want to contact us for any additional information, we'll be happy to talk with you. So here's our information. Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for those that attended. I feel like I'm very honored that people are interested in accessibility, and it touches me very deeply to see that as a person who does have night blindness. I really do appreciate that everyone here came to see that. So thank you, and please do share the message and inspire others. Thank you.
that concludes our panel for today. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.